All right, Huckleberry here. It's time for another exciting adventure to Mount Katahdin. That's right, it's time for last one to Katahdin Wins, how to through hike the Appalachian Trail when you're old enough to know better. The topic today for our discussion is when do I leave? When do I leave? I've been asking myself that lately, actually. When do I leave? I'm ready to go again. So really, truly, it's a question, when should you leave? You got to plan this. And it's all about the weather. You're planning around the weather. Bottom line is that you need 5 to 6 months. You got to really, truly 5 to 6 months. That's like 1,000,000 steps a month, right? You got to fit that in between snow in the snow in the south, the snow in the north. I got to tell you, I'm an ignorant old Yankee from northern Minnesota. It never crossed my mind that in April in Georgia that it might snow. Yet there I was in April in Georgia in the snow. Surprised the heck out of me. I was pretty prepared for it, partly because snow doesn't intimidate me. I'm from a snow state. But if you are not from a place where there's snow, this might really surprise you. I didn't have waterproof shoes, right? So I'd have been better off hiking in the snow with waterproof shoes. But I didn't have snow for long, just snow for a day. And so you got to make a decision, and that's got to be part of your decision. It's going to be part of your decision. When's it going to snow? You can flip-flop almost any time because start in the middle and you go north or south from there, usually north. And however, you want to plan it. So you start in the middle. You don't want to get to Katahdin in the middle of October, right? So you need, say, from Harper's Ferry, you've got to have like 3 months to get that additional, 1,000 miles or 1,100 miles or so up to Mount Katahdin. So you got to leave enough time still to get to Mount Katahdin before it closes. And you got to look at that end date either way, because when you come back to the center, when you come back to Harper's Ferry and head south, assuming that's the way you do it, because most people do, well, you could finish in December. And let me tell you, if it snows in April in northern Georgia and in the Smoky Mountains, there's a pretty good chance it's going to be snowing in December too. So you got to give that some thought. You might, do your research, right, and find out, how common it is to have snow in certain places. It's pretty easy to find out that mid-October is kind of the drop dead date for northern Maine, for Mount Katahdin. So you really got to look hard at that. Now, if you're going to go SOBO, you still are worried about snow in the north because you may not be able to hike Katahdin until June 1st. It may not be open because of snowpack. And hiking through 3, 4, 5 inches of snow on a day when it snows is one thing, but hiking on a mountain that has mixed snow and various stages of melting and decomposition and depth and iciness, that's a whole nother story. Katahdin is hard on a dry, beautiful summer day. And so when there's snow on it, it's a whole level of difficulty harder. So that's going to define when you leave, really, if you're going SOBO from Katahdin. So, and again, you're going to finish in North Georgia, and you got to watch that too. So you're going to be balancing, getting out of Maine after the snow, and you probably have a desire to get to Springer Mountain in Georgia before it snows down there. And yeah, now the good news is you're going to have shelters to yourself, at least at the beginning, at the end, where you won't have a lot of competition. There's not a lot of competition from other southbounders either. There's only hundreds of them. And so as far as crappy weather goes, having shelters is pretty nice. If it's going to be rainy or snowy, the shelters look pretty darn desirable. Even if somebody like me would way rather sleep in a tent. Now, if you're going northbound, you can leave whenever you want. I mean, people leave in February to go northbound. And I decided that wasn't a good idea. I originally planned to leave at the beginning of March. I changed it to the very, very end of March. I looked at the calendar that you can find from the ATC that tells you how the reservations are going and where people are really stacking up. And I picked the end of March because it looked like there were fewer people leaving. But from the middle of February to the middle of April, 60 or so people a day are registered to leave and actually do start hikes then. So, you're thinking about the bubble when you leave, being behind the bubble or ahead of the bubble. The bubble, by the way, isn't that big a deal. You don't notice it. When you're in it, you don't notice that there's, so many people around you because you're going the same direction. So it's really not that noticeable. I decided to leave at the end of March, partly because I got some advice from this guy named Bigfoot, who's a YouTuber. And if you go to follow Bigfoot, he's got a big talk about why you shouldn't leave in March. And I listened to him and I took his advice. And you know what? People I met that left in the middle of March, they lost a whole week in the Smoky Mountains because of a blizzard. I didn't lose any time because of weather. Okay. If you leave or when you leave, you got to be thinking about what happens in the north. And man, what the potential for snow at any time, really any time in the White Mountains, but especially as you get into September, is really, really high. And so there's two really hard deadlines. One is Mount Katahdin, mid-October they closed. This year it was the 20th of October. It's getting later. Well, climate change. The other is the Kennebec River Ferry closes September 30th, and that's been a hard deadline. And if you don't make it there by September 30th, then it's pretty hard to get across, or costly to get across that river. And it's deep and it's wide and it's dangerous because the dam controls it and suddenly will release a lot of water and the water level rises quite unexpectedly. And it gets cold. You don't want to be fording all these rivers in Maine when the water's cold. Man, it would be fun to do in August. But in September, let me tell you from personal experience, that Maine river fording is not that much fun. So those are your planning parameters. You're thinking about the weather. Some of that you can research, find other sources of advice. For me, it worked really, really well to start at the end of March. That worked out really well for me. It worked for me at the end too. I mean, I had enough time to finish, but you need to think about unplanned and unforeseen events like illness and injury. I lost a week because of COVID. I got COVID when my brother came from California to hike with me. I lost 5 days, plus maybe another day in quarantine. I got good treatment and I had a good place to crash. I was nearby where my sister lives in Maryland. And so that helped a whole lot. I also got injured, like a lot of people do. They get injured at the beginning or they get injured at the end. At the beginning, they have these stress injuries, and at the end, they have trauma. They fall down. It's hard. I can't tell you how hard New Hampshire is and southern Maine. Really hard, steep trails. New Hampshire, the trails are also in terrible condition. No switchbacks. So anyway, I fell my first full day in Maine on a flat piece of ground with no pack on, going to get water from a spring at Speck Pond after completing the hardest miles on the Appalachian Trail, the Mahoosic Notch and the Mahoosic Arm. And then just minding my own business on a rainy, cold day, I slipped on a root and look at that lump right there. You see that? Yeah, I broke a rib. I still had to hike 5 miles and I lost 2 weeks. I mean, I'm glad I only lost 2 weeks to that. I was pretty lucky. My wife's brother lives in Maine. I stayed with him for 2 weeks until I recovered enough to go. And so illness and injury are wild cards, and that can change your end date, right? Your planned end date. So even though I only spent 5.5 months actually hiking, I spent more than 6 months on the trail because of illness and injury. So you got to be thinking about that. You need a buffer. You ought to have a 2 week or so buffer, between that start date and when you finish at Mount Katahdin. Okay, so I hope that helps. Don't forget to like and pass on word of this video series for old timers if you found them helpful. And I hope you get out and hike. Until next time, this is Huckleberry saying happy trails until we meet again.